Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Saturday, January 25th, as we all come together to take a look back at the news that's happening today and the things that have happened over the last week in the world of UFO disclosure. Man, we've got a lot of things going on today. Can't wait to go ahead and get things started on that note. Let me jump into the studio and welcome everybody in, and let me start up the drums. I know I didn't welcome in the people last night or say goodnight to them and everything. Yeah, I was in a funk yesterday. So on that note, we all get there sometimes. Let me bring up a list and see who the heck we have out there in the chat and welcome you in. Remember, the chat is where it's at, and you can go ahead and join the chat by becoming a member of the channel. And why would I say that? Because you know what? Membership has its benefits, and that is one of them. Welcome, everybody. Let me go ahead and welcome in Amiga Rules and EW. Anonymous Rex is here all the way from Oregon. We've got Anton Ghost, Azrael Aries, Bridge Too Far, Craig Smith, Mr. Daryl Zernick, live long and prosper. We've got Digger Dog here along with Dolly Farden, Eli McGinnis. I see Evan B, Fernando Suazo. We've got Firefly, Frank Cathell, Frostradamus. I guess he likes it a little cold. Everybody does sometimes. Gray Hair Discoveries is here along with Gray Jedi. We've got Jan. Good to see you, Jan. Along with Jeff Pearson. I Sky High just popped in. Good to see you, my friend. John Loop, John Mooner, Johnny UFO. All the Johns are here. We got JR Brand 4. Good to see you. Kathy's here. King Bolt Clipper. Kelly Brotner, Piercing Blue Eyes. Good to see you, my dear lady. I also want to welcome in Liberty Astro UK. We also have Maritime Unprepared along with Megan Betts is here. Let's welcome in Mr. Grimlock along with Moon Pie, Mr. Joey B, Icy Mustard Sock. We also have Necessary Dialogue, Nick P. Niles Guy's here. Good to see you, Niles Guy, as always. Nowhere Fast. We got Paul Damon. We got Reality Check VIP. Not only is he in the chat, but he's also in the back. Can't wait to see what Harold brings forward today. We've got Roland, Ron Mack. We got to see Sam. We've got Sharon Rose, Stash, Stefan, Soupy, the Chromosome Cowboys here along with Tia Marie. We got Tom Clark, Tony D, the Toxic Revenger, along with Uber Holder. How about that? Close enough. Little too small. Welcome, Tom Clark. All right, on that note, let's go ahead and that time, friends, to go ahead and welcome in our back panel, because you never know what they have to say today. Let's go ahead and welcome them in. And sorry if those sound effects were too loud. I've turned them down. Get that there a little bit more. There we go. Who do we have out there? Let's go ahead and welcome in the back. Let's see. We've got Andy W. coming all the way in from Bristol, United Kingdom. Welcome, Andy. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, Thomas, yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. I hope everybody else is tonight. Hopefully it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, I think we'll be there, my friend. I think it's just a matter of time and persistence. And yep. we have both. Yep. Our next friend just flew in from Washington, D.C. Hopefully his arms aren't too tired. Let's welcome in Daryl Zernick. How's it going, Daryl?
Hey, it's going great, Thomas. Great to see everybody and looking forward to a great Saturday show.
Thank you very much, sir. Also in the back, we've got a veteran coming to us from the deserts or from the Southwest. Let's welcome in Mr. Ed Brown. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing real well, Thomas. Looking forward to the show. And since this is the international version, I'll say good day, mate. Good
day, my friend. Thanks for coming in. Absolutely. Also in the back, it looks like we've got Mr. Hollywood Harold. Long time no see, Harold. How you doing today?
I'm legendary, Thomas, and I'm doing awesome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out today. Absolutely. Well, if we turn our sights to the north, to the great white north, let's welcome in a man from the territory, not from the territory, from the province where all the U's are silent. Mr. Michael Sokoloff. How's it going, Michael?
It's going good, Thomas. I'm still waiting for the drone report from Mr. Trump. It's been
We'll
over
get it
a
there.
week.
It'll be there soon. It'll be there soon. We'll get it. I hope so. There's a lot of good things that are in the works right now for a presidential disclosure. I can't wait, my friend. I can't wait. Also in the back, let's take a look. We have another veteran. We've got Sergeant Daniel from the USMC. How's it going, Daniel?
Outstanding, sir. Thanks for having me, and look forward to a good show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Well, one of our last panelists we have today. Let's welcome in Tia Maria. How's it going, Tia?
Hey, Thomas. Excited for the show. And just so everybody knows, Trump did order his chief of staff, I believe, to get all of the information on all that. So it's coming, guys. It's coming.
I guess we just have to be a little bit patient because he just was down in North Carolina and out in California to go ahead and not just go down and fly over and take a look at what was going on with the national disasters. Actually, they're talking to the people, hearing from them firsthand on what they need, and even being willing to go ahead and shut down FEMA at this point because they are so bureaucratic and unable to help the people they should be helping. So, with a lot of great things coming to the United States in the near future. Hopefully disclosure is part of it, right, Tia?
That's it. Absolutely. He also signed a whatever to let all that other information out about JFK, MLK. So I'm excited about that.
And you know what? In the JFK files, there should be some juicy tidbits about UFOs. Yeah.
Can't wait.
I can't wait either, my dear lady. And let's take our sights off our back panel and put it squarely on Mike Disclosure. How the hell are you?
I'm doing well for our Saturday International show. We have a lot to talk about today. It's going to be interesting. Plus, Trump fired 17 inspector generals.
I know.
So that's going to be really interesting.
That would include the ones that screwed over David Grush. They didn't survive. There's only like one or two who survived.
I know. It's a step, I think, in the right direction. Don't you?
Now, apparently, the inspector generals were colluding with the divisions that they should have been overseeing and bringing truth and justice into.
Correct. And he finally did something about that where the previous administration failed to.
Yeah.
So, step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not only that, Pete Hegseth, who was our new Secretary of Defense, replacing the inept Lloyd Austin from the Biden administration, came in. He put it in an order to the Pentagon: no social media posts from anybody in the Pentagon, unless it's about stuff going on bases and healthcare or entertainment or different things going on for the families on the bases. So no more people in the military going ahead and speaking out against the administration because they want to refocus what's going on in the government towards the priorities set forth by Trump. It's going to be a good 4 years ahead of us, Mike.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully a step in the right direction across the board.
Yeah.
But it's long overdue. So about time.
Oh, I know.
Cover it every step of the way. This is going to be fun.
You better believe it, my friend. Talking about things that we're going to cover, let me go ahead. I've got it playing here, but I want to do this right. Let me go ahead and bring it down. And our first story tonight, Mike, we've got a clip of Ross Coulthart talking with Andy McGrillen over at that UFO podcast. He's got a great tweet he put out there saying a reveal is coming. How about that? Let me go ahead and show this first before I bring up the nice higher resolution video for us all to go ahead and talk about. This is what I'm talking about. There's something big coming. There's a lot of news happening, and we can't wait to see some real disclosure that's being driven by the executive branch, because that is truly where the cover-up spin. We've been calling that out before that became the thing, right, Mike?
Oh, we have. You're absolutely right about that. This has been something that's been coming for a long time now. And it seems like we're on the precipice of things to start to finally move forward. I mean, 2024 was so slow. It was, oh my God. So in comparison, I'm really looking forward to anything moving and changing at this point.
Well, in 2024, we were told by LUE to buckle up.
Strap in. Oh, I mean, strap on.
No. And then this year it was told to us by Christopher Sharper, the Liberation Times. It's time to strap in. And that's where we, on our New Year's show, we said, well, if it's not strap in, and hopefully it's not going to be strap on, because that means everyone who's interested in disclosure is going to get fucked.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we've been so far over 80 years. Getting fucked on a regular basis.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. On that note, let me go ahead and bring up, hopefully you guys enjoy the humor. Remember, here at Disclosure tonight, we are serious about not being serious. But before we get there, Mike, I have a little duty to do.
Okay.
Not that kind of duty. You know, that can be explosive at times, I tell you.
It can. It could be one hell of a trip to the library.
Oh, I know. We did get some super chats in, so let's go ahead and thank our people who have given us super chats so far. So far, we've gotten one from Daryl. Let's go. Happy Saturday, everybody. And another one from Peggy and her South Florida friends. To a wonderful guy we all love. Thank you very much. Hopefully it's me, not Trump, but either way, we'll take it either way it's coming from. But I believe there was 2 more super chats that happened before the show started, and I thought there was a way for me to go ahead and look at plan funding. All right, here we go. We had 2 super chats before when we first scheduled the show earlier today from Janet Park, who's in the UK, who gave us 2 super chats for £2 each. For you, Thomas, thank you very much, Janet. We appreciate your love and support of everything we do here at Disclosure tonight, and thank God the YouTube Council allows me to bring it up so easily. Usually I'd bring it up, so thank you very much. It was before I actually started the back chat that allows me to bring that stuff up. So without any further ado, thank you for your super chats. I love you folks. Every dollar that comes in, yeah, you've heard me say it before, it goes back into our production funds. That way I can actually let Disclosure tonight live on its own and not off my daytime job. On that note, let me go ahead and start up this quick message coming from Ross Coulthart. Where did it go? He's a bigger Ross. There we go. Little bit. I'll take it about there. Let's go ahead and play it. Here we go, folks. I think you'll be happy with this. I was.
And at some stage, there is going to be a public reckoning. There is going to be I don't think the president will ever sit there at a lectern and say there are non-human intelligences. I think eventually there's just going to be a slow reveal. There'll be a slow admission. And I think, even talking to people in the Pentagon myself or the intelligence community, I think there's the beginning of a realization that it's untenable for this cover-up to continue. It's becoming a bit of a joke. The volume, one of the reasons I'm so exhausted at the moment is people who've been in the psionic program, people in the legacy program who want to share. It's like a floodgates has opened. And I'm already talking to people at senior levels in the Congress, people in the Trump administration who want to know the truth. And I can't quite believe it because, if anybody had ever told me that Donald Trump would be the agent of disclosure, I would have laughed. But if anything fits into his narrative...
Well, Mike, I've been saying that for the longest time. Even when I was saying it, you were even against me when I was saying it.
Oh, I was, because I was going back to his previous track record of when he was first elected, and did nothing on disclosure.
No.
But after what we had to deal with the previous administration, I changed my perspective on that, obviously.
Because he does what he says he's gonna do when he gets asked in interviews, when he's up on the stage talking about the stuff. He actually follows through on the stuff that he promises. Look at all the executive orders that we've had, over almost 200 of them so far, and he hasn't done yet with that pen.
Oh no, that's just the beginning. It's going to be a lot more is coming. So yeah, you were right, and we're looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be an interesting year.
Oh, absolutely. Let me back up a little bit, but here we go. Let's continue on a little bit more. I don't care where it's coming from as long as we have disclosure coming. That's what we're here for, my friend.
If anything fits into his narrative, be it true or not, about a deep state, it's this idea of a cabal of people in intelligence and defense who have taken it upon themselves to commit crimes to conceal a monstrous secret, the biggest secret in human history. And
have you ever seen Ross so giddy?
No.
No.
I have not.
No. That's exactly why we're playing it, because Ross is like smiling. He's giggling about all the stuff that we're talking about. And This means something. Andy W.
The one thing that I thought was interesting is that when he referred to the legacy program, he also called it the psionic program. First time I heard that associated with the legacy program.
Right, because this does come from his own reporting and people within his circle who've come forward to him. And, you know, like we've mentioned, Mike, I am still in the center on this one. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it does exist. We just want to see some freaking proof that the American people and the people of the world, for that matter, can latch onto, right?
Absolutely. It's supposed to be about the truth to the public that we're not alone.
Right.
And they're doing the work that they're making all of these claims about. All we want is to see it. That's all. Not complicated. Not hard.
If you're going to do something stupendous, bring out some off-the-shelf iPhones or Androids or Samsungs or Sony cameras or whatever you've got and make the proof undeniable. That's what we need, is undeniable proof, right?
That's true. And what was interesting is that there was a podcast by Andy McGrillen from that UFO podcast who had Dr. Gary Nolan on.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this whistleblower that Ross was covering in the interview. And the one thing that Gary said that I thought that stood out was interesting is he mentioned that the video that was released in that interview had gone through a lot of analysis and scrutiny, and they have as of yet to ascertain exactly what that object may or may not have been. So inconclusive. That's why this has not been moving the needle on the information that's come out, which backs up everything that you and I have been saying the entire time. So Gary Nolan made similar points, which I thought was interesting.
You know, and as people are hearing things, they're going to be asking questions, and rightfully so. They just need to be not so nasty. That's one of our next stories we'll be talking about as well. Being nasty has consequences.
Good segue. That's exactly right.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. But before we get to that one, we have to finish this. And Andy, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah, I was just going to say about putting a link up for the chat. But you said about, like, you know, giving out cameras and things. You know, that's one issue we have in this subject. You know, I only know of one or two. Well, we've got the Tedesco brothers who are, you know, sky watching for UFOs. We've got our friend Tom King who does it. You know, if somebody was to, you know, fund handing out, I don't know what cameras or whatever have you, I'd gladly take one. You know.
No, I was just talking about at the events that they're bringing all these people to, like Ross and Gary Nolan, and they have all these people they're bringing in who are potentially psionics, which I apparently must fit in that realm as well. But they didn't invite me for some reason. Apparently, they must not like the color of my hoodie. But you know, when those people are coming in and that kind of stuff is going, and they're having it. You know, part of setting up that event is not just to bring up the psionics and the reclining lawn chairs for them to go ahead and do their work with. It's about going ahead and bringing the equipment so we can show this to the world.
Well, yeah, you know, psionics as well. You know, I believe I had a link with an object a couple of years back. It wasn't anywhere like the one in the latest whistleblower. You know, it was literally, I was told to look up. I looked up and an orb went over. You know, take about what you will, whether it's, you know, my brain's talking to itself again like it normally does, but you know, I don't really know about like having a spiritual link, or, you know, I'm not averse to it, but certainly with get these, if these people believe they can do it, get them out there and get people out there with cameras who can document all of this.
Bingo, because that's the thing. If you're there, it's wonderful. You can see it, but if you want to share with everybody, bring out the digital recording equipment so we can take it to the next level, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's go ahead and continue on with this clip. Thanks for your words, guys. Let's see where this goes. Here we go.
And it's just amazing to me because the Trump administration does look like it's moving towards disclosure. I'm getting feelouts from people in the administration who are saying, you know, we want to hear from these witnesses. We want to engage. We want this evidence. We're going to be asking questions. It's happening. And one day, I'm reserving a very fine bottle of malt scotch for that opportunity when when basically an admission is made that firmly puts the debunkers in their place. I think that day is not too far away.
How about that? Put debunkers in their place. I can't wait to see that that's going to happen eventually, sooner than later. And yes, as Mike was going ahead and talking about the interview with Gary Nolan on Annie McGrillen's That UFO podcast, that's exactly where this clip is from of Ross Coulthart. It's an interesting situation to absolutely say the least. Mike, your thought, from my perspective, I've never seen Ross so giddy on this. He's happy about the situation where it's going, rightfully so. Ross even talked about about a year ago, saying that all the time he's put into reporting on disclosure, he hasn't made a penny off it. But these days, it seems like he's got a job over at News Nation. He's able to report on it. More importantly, he's reporting on it at a time where it's great to see that we've got a senior level reporter coming in and actually trying to cover the situation of what's going on.
He is. Yeah, he's been for a long time now. He's gotten a lot of controversy and a lot of flack from the people in journalism and the mainstream media, the news organizations that he works for. And now he's finally being recognized for the work that he's doing on this subject, which is why he did the David Grush interview, which I think was really good work that he did with that. And now he's moving forward with the Jake Barber interview. Where that goes still remains to be seen, and we'll see how that works out in the end.
Right. And just to be clear to everybody, Mike, we've both watched the Jake Barber interview and everything, but at least for me, maybe the same for you, for me, the jury's still out on that one. There's a lot of things being said. There's a lot of claims being made, but there's not a lot of stuff besides, you got to believe me, because I've been in the military, going ahead and trying to move this thing forward.
No, that's exactly right. And listen, you can tell all the anecdotal stories you want, and you can speculate. That's all fine and good. But if you're going to make claims that you know firsthand and have direct information and is working on getting additional information, I mean, it isn't even just a question of hearing from another source or having a government agency admit something, like when we were talking about the Immaculate Constellation unacknowledged special access program. He's talking about a company that Jake Barber has formed that specifically can control UAP and bring them into land. That's an interesting claim, and I would love for them to be able to do that and show the public.
Yeah.
But until they do that, it's nothing more than just what it is at face value.
Mike, if they can go ahead and do that, why don't they go ahead and direct them and bring them down to land on the White House lawn? I think that'll be the most symbolic action they could ever do.
Oh, you're right. It would. But so far, I haven't heard any indication that they were looking to do something like that.
No.
So we'll have to wait and see how this works out in the end.
I mean,
we'll cover it.
Mike, that's the biggest things people have talked about. Well, if the UFOs are going to come and land, why haven't they come and landed on the White House lawn? Well, if we have people that can call in UFOs and have them land everywhere, call them in to land on the White House lawn, Why not?
I agree. I think that if that ability existed and they had that type of control, that when they had the special interview on News Nation with Ross and Jake Barber was there, he should have, instead of showing that egg video, he should have showed live video footage of a craft landing.
Yeah. You know what?
Egg
Craig Smith in the chat brings up a good point. Some of them to the Super Bowl halftime show. That'd be one hell of a halftime, but we probably wouldn't have the rest of the show if that happened, would we?
Oh, probably not. That was like when Janet Jackson exposed herself. It would get a lot of attention. So, yeah. Interesting, but we're going to have to wait and see how this turns out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Talking about waiting to see how it's going to turn out. Ed Brown, what are your thoughts?
We have said for quite a long time that with all the cameras out today, that we're going to start getting a lot more of these. But something else that popped up, if you listen to Chris Bledsoe's interviews and discussions, is you can only take a picture of them, it seems, when they want to be seen. And he gave several examples where he would ask the people that he was in contact with, "Can I take your picture?" And they were saying no for a long time, and then finally they said, "You can take our picture and you can show other people."
Well,
So I
Chris
think that's-
Bledsoe has been taking pictures and videos and sharing with people for many years, Ed.
It's been years. Well, you're right. It has been years. But then the first few years, they weren't letting him take those pictures
Right.
to show them. And so I think that has a bearing on it. So, when you were, Mike, we're talking about this, my thought is you'll get a picture of them landing in the front of the White House lawn, if they want to be seen landing the White House lawn.
Well, apparently they want to be seen by large crowds of people. So if they can pull them in an undisclosed location, might as well try for the best place you could get them to go.
Well, that's true. And a lot of these experiencers are saying that they are really opening up to this now, that they're unhappy with the direction our country's going and the world's going with all the fighting and everything, and that they're going to start showing themselves a lot more because of that. So I think we're right on the edge of something.
Yeah.
Here.
But we just have to be honest. They have been fighting. People have been fighting or at war in the Middle East since the Middle East was since people first lived there. So
Well, that's true. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but it seems like it's more. Maybe it's more because it's more immediate in time to us. It's something we're seeing right now that affects.
Good points. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate those insights. Now, we do have our next video clip coming up here today of Representative Eric Burleson, who was just taken off of Nancy Mace's committee in the House, going ahead and talking about that he's pushing the White House to consider, of course, UFO disclosure. Let's go ahead and bring up this video and play it for our audience. Here we go, everybody. Let me get that set. All right, let's play it.
Here on the Hill, sir. Sunshine, it is all the new rage here in Washington. What about the decision from the president, and what do you think we'll learn, if anything, from these files?
Isn't it a refreshing moment when an elected official actually does what they campaigned on? This is beautiful. This is underscoring the fact that Donald Trump is the man of the people. He's the people's president, and the people wanted to know what's going on with the JFK files. The people want answers, and the people are sick and tired of having a federal government think that it's the one that's in possession of this. At the end of the day, the government belongs to the people, and the people have a right to know about something so important as what happened to JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy.
What about what your colleague?
What
about what your colleague, Congresswoman Kamek, said? What about the Epstein files? Release that?
Absolutely. And as you know, I've been on the oversight committee and the UAP task force to try to identify and disclose. In fact, I don't mind saying I've been reaching out to Trump's campaign and to his policy team, trying to get them to consider UFO disclosure.
What have they told you?
Do an executive order on that. And I think that Chuck Schumer, so one thing I think Chuck Schumer and I can find an agreement on is that the American people, really, the world deserves to know this.
Let me drill down on that. You say you've reached out to the White House about it. What have they told you?
So right now I'm chasing down the proper person, but I've been reaching out to people that are in Trump camp that I know.
So what's your sense? What's your feeling? What happens here with disclosures, transparency, maybe declassification of any kind?
I think Trump he sees himself as the people's president, and I think that if the American people, and there's an outcry for people that want the information, I think that Trump will deliver, because he sees his role as working for the American people and not the other way around.
If that is put forward, declassified, a report, whatever, what do you think we would see on that front?
Look, I hope we get some answers one way or the other, but whether we go back to what really happened at Roswell, what if there was any attempts to cover that up, every event that we've been investigating, that the UFO community has been investigating, I would like to get answers to those events.
I got to leave it there. Congressman Eric Burleson on the House Oversight Committee, Republican from Missouri. Again, thank you for the time, sir. Good luck this weekend.
Interesting conversation, to say the least. But Mike, if I could bring you onto this one, Okay, Mocha, thank you very much. It's not just about dealing with what the people want. What we're talking about here is exposing government corruption, where you have rogue parts of the intelligence community and military industrial complex who have been going in and potentially having these operations, having these programs, and keeping the president and the people out of the information that they should know.
Well, listen, the corruption angle that the government has been involved in regards to covering this up for the past 80 years. You and I have covered that extensively here on the show for a long time. The DOD can't pass an audit. It's something like $22 trillion that's unaccounted for. That is textbook corruption. And that's another angle to this cover-up that we've been covering for the audience. And it seems that now, if the new administration is going to be taking this seriously and looking into this, like not allowing these gatekeepers or people who have been obstructing the truth from coming out to remain in office or in their current jobs, it's absolutely a step in the right direction. So yeah, there's many different angles to what the government has been keeping away from the public and the Congress the entire time.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things we're going to have to take a look at and see as time goes on. Fingers crossed the President Trump is going to go ahead and deliver on that. But I've been talking about this for a while, and I think we've got, a dang good chance of bringing out the truth. Again, talking about Russell, as we saw a little bit ago. I've never seen that man giddy before. So hopefully that's a good sign. Now, coming into about Representative Eric Burlison, as I brought up just a second ago. Let me go ahead and bring this one up here. Where did it go? Videos. All right, here we go. Coming in a tweet that was put out by Dee Johnson, who does a lot of reporting on UFOs in Washington, D.C. Oh, shit. I'm up another window and I can't do it. Here we go. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and bring that back up again. All right, Dee Johnson went ahead and said, Eric Burlison was part of something that was called the UAP caucus, I believe, Mike. And that included a bunch of different people. That was part of Nancy Mace's, if you want to call it, committee that dealt with cybersecurity, information technology, and government innovation. But here's the problem. All the people, except for Nancy, who are all part of what they call the UAP caucus in Congress, that includes Tim Burchett, Eric Burlison, Jared Moskowitz, and Anna Paulina Luna, have all been removed from the committee, and it's not like they've gone and been placed on a replacement committee. They can go ahead and bring out information about UFOs. For one, Tim Burchett, I believe, wasn't he brought into DOGE, D-O-G-E?
Yeah, he was. And that was something that if he was involved with his knowledge and experience, he would be able to point them in the right direction.
Right.
So, exactly.
Those will bring stuff out. So at least Burleson still has interest in this. He's still trying to go ahead and bring out the truth. But it seems like those who had the voices going in Congress were all congregated together under one committee. That voice, for some reason, under Mike Johnson, has been neutered.
Right. So it seems like even with the new administration coming into office, we're still getting a degree of pushback from the deep state to prevent the truth from coming out.
Potentially. This could be from the deep state or signaling that we're going to have support from this coming from the executive branch that would surpass anything that a committee in the House of Representatives could do.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. But you and I talked on previous shows that there are also behind the scenes the people who have been preventing in Congress from having the truth come out. They're still pushing back.
Yeah.
We had Mike Turner from Ohio who has been removed from the chair position of the House Select Intelligence Committee. And he was working with Representative James Comer, who's also the chair of the House Oversight Committee, that has done and run both public UAP hearings back in 2023 and 2024. So it seems like Comer is still in play and still acting against the best interests of truth and transparency on the disclosure topic.
But although Comer is still there, one of the biggest stalwarts in the House of Representatives was Mike Turner. He's been removed. I never saw that one coming.
No, Turner has been there for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
Has a lot of power, which is why he stayed in that position. But something changed. And when the new administration came in, finally, he was removed from that position of power in that seat.
Right.
But if you remember, you and I broke the story here first on August 26th of 2023, after David Grush had publicly testified at that public UAP hearing. And we were able to inform the public that Representative Mike Turner and Representative James Comer had an agreement to prevent and not allow any additional public UAP hearings to the level and degree of the testimony that David Grush had put forward publicly, because it was an embarrassment to the Department of Defense's reputation, to the American public and the world public.
And you got to remember, if you remember, Mike Turner wasn't he also the one that actually shut down the adoption of the UAP Disclosure Act into the National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2024?
Correct. He was. You're right. But the point that I'm making for the audience and for the public is that Mike Turner and James Comer have been working from the same side of the fence and preventing disclosure from coming out publicly. So even though Turner is now been removed, it seems like Comer still has a hand in it and is not looking to push forward disclosure, regardless of the current administration.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. You know, in politics, people say, I don't want to hear about politics on Disclosure tonight, but if you look at the core, if you look at the core of everything that goes on with Disclosure, it's a politically driven government program, for that matter.
It is. How could it not be involving politics when you're talking about the executive branch that has been acting independently and preventing the truth from coming out, and the legislative branch hasn't been able to do anything to offset or change that? So of course it's going to have a political aspect to it.
Yeah.
How could it not?
Exactly. Politics and disclosure go hand in hand, folks. So it's one of those things. Yes, and someone's saying that News Nation is going to be having a broadcast in 75 minutes, which I believe beyond the end of our program today. Last time we broadcasted News Nation live, we got struck with the copyright. Granted, it was just taken down, but I'll take a look and see if it's something we can go ahead and cover. On that note, since you have your hand up, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question for those of us not in the US. Now, Turner's gone, so do they actually have a replacement for him? Has anybody actually been put in that position?
Yes, and I don't know who it is.
Okay, so and there's anybody else? Brian's not about tonight to he'd probably have his finger on the pulse of it. So
he probably would.
Okay,
but
wondering whether whoever gets placed in that position is more open with disclosure, or is it's just going to be another shoe-in replacement or not?
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have I sense a shift happening in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, and in the White House. So on that point, granted, I don't recall. I can look it up in a second, but I need to get migraine meds first, because I noticed some signs coming on at the start of the show. The lights I have for the studio are making everything a bit foggy with me, and I can feel it kicking in. So I'm going to have to go find and 3 pills and take them. But yeah, yeah. I'll go ahead and track down who the replacement is now. Ed Brown, you have your hand up. Mike, why don't you handle Ed while I go find my meds?
Oh, certainly. Go right ahead, Thomas.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, I just wanted to point out when you and Thomas were talking about why Turner was resistant to having those meetings, you mentioned the embarrassment of UAP. But I think a bigger factor, and we've talked about this before, is the influence that his donors played in on that equation. You know, he is in Ohio, and it covers the area that includes Wright Pat. So it's real easy to make the connection. There may well be contractors working out of Wright Pat that don't want him to push for disclosure.
Well, it's Lockheed Martin, Ed, that is one of his constituents, and they have been majorly funding his campaigns the entire time. And we know that Lockheed Martin is a key player from the military-industrial complex in dealing with legacy UAP research and blocking that information from ever coming out publicly.
You're absolutely right, Mike. And I think that maybe the new chairman of that subcommittee might not be as inclined to be influenced by Lockheed Martin or the other defense contractors. So maybe we'll get some more coverage. But there's multiple ways that disclosure is going to come out. It's not just through those congressional hearings.
No, it's obviously not, because now we've had 2 congressional hearings and we've had some really interesting testimony, and it hasn't really brought the truth out to the public or moved the needle on disclosure yet.
Yeah, I think, you know, the one thing we all need to, and by we, I mean the people in the back and the people in the audience that are for disclosure and are pro UAP discussions, we need to be careful that we don't jump at the first thing that comes along, like that's going to be the thing that's going to answer every question. You know, we're going to get a lot of false starts and a lot of bad information as we move forward, but each step forward is a positive move.
Absolutely, Ed. And that's one of the things, sorry, I've got a handful of meds here I'm just about to take. That's one of the things, as in regards to Jake Barber, Ed, that's why we're standing in the center on this, because for me, there's not enough proof to go ahead and make the jump. How do you feel about the situation with Barber? Are you on the fence? Are you believing him, or are you not? Or are you believing him, or are you not believing him?
Well, my personal opinion is a little more supportive of the testimony than you were. You remember we talked about that on the Friday show. And I think Ross's credibility plays in there too. I basically believe that he has a very strong investigative team that is going to track those things down. So I'm putting a positive on Barber, and I think that was a real video that we saw, and that was a real UFO egg.
Interesting to say the least. Yes, sir. Let's go ahead.
I won't be surprised, but I won't be surprised if we're wrong, because remember we said Trump was going to announce the drone issue the day after the election, or day after the installation, and we're still waiting for that now. So that's why I say we tend to grab something and say, well, this is going to be what we're looking for, and then we get a little disappointed over that. So we just have to be patient.
Nothing ever delivers in the time frame we want it, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Moon Pie, really quick. Thomas, get an x-ray of your neck. Yeah, I probably could get an updated x-ray of what's going on. I have 2 artificial discs installed between C5-6 and 6-7. The one between C6-7, I believe, is in a position and it's kind of fused itself in place. So I just have issues with my neck that'll be following me for the rest of my life. I'm familiar with it, but thank you for bringing up that point. Now, getting back to the point of disclosure and everything, we've talked to everybody in the back. Let me go ahead and bring up the next piece I want to go ahead and bring up. Where is it at? Let's bring it up. Now, Lou Elizondo has a new attorney, Mike. I'm sure it was new to me today as I ran into stuff, and I believe it was new to you as well, right?
Oh, it's the first time I've heard anything like this. Yeah, you're right, Thomas.
So, in doing research on some cease and desist letters that I saw, we have got like 1.5 pages we can go ahead and go through on this one. Maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. But one of the first posts that I've seen of this guy with regards to UFOs on Twitter comes out. He comes out of the gate saying UAP and UFO, quote, experiencers, unquote, are a problem. Anyone can say about anything. So experiencers who have had issues and have gone through this stuff were the problem? How can that be? That just seems way the hell out there, Mike. And very defamatory against a large group of people who not under their liking. It's not like we've called this shit to come in and deal with us. We're the victims, but yet we're being called a problem because we can talk about it. What is it? We're only supposed to hear about stuff from military people, and those are the only experiencers that should say anything? What do you think?
I think it's a textbook response that is sometimes taken in the criminal justice system. When you have a rape victim who's the accuser, and you have the defendant, the perpetrator, whose defense is to then victimize and prosecute the victim, the rape victim, and make them the bad guy, the enemy, blame them for everything that occurred. He's doing something that's A, not original, been done before, and B, is pretty much highly insulting.
Especially when it involves the anal probing that have been going on. Right?
Exactly.
That's a sexual crime against humanity that's been going on and allowing to go on. We're saying we're the problem. How can that be? I mean, it's not like I brought this up last night. You missed this one last night, I believe, Mike, but this was sent to us by Gary, who was from our friend in the back. It's not like, here we go. Here's a funny one. I got abducted by aliens last night. They stuck so many things in my ass. The following evening, oh no, I hope the aliens don't get me. That's not the situation we're talking about, is it? Unless they're being called down Jake Barber style.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much correct. And again, for our audience, we are serious about not being serious. Good points, though.
Sorry, that's just a good one I have to bring up. You know, talking about lawyers and everything, I brought this one out last night, and I'll just read through this one since we're talking about funny stuff. This is like on a dog treat kind of a thing, it looks like. Did your human break a treat in half and try to pass it off as a whole treat? You may be entitled to compensation. This sounds like lawyers written perfectly. Our attorneys at Hound Wolf and Chase have 7 times the experience chasing down treats owed. Pause today to schedule a consultation. So you got to have fun with it. Daryl Zernick, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah. So Rick Crawford from Arkansas is the person that replaced Mike Turner. And Crawford is an advocate for UAP disclosure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for being our Mr. Political Insider tonight.
Absolutely. Where's Brian Pimble when you need him?
Oh, but you did a perfect job, Daryl. Thank you very much. Michael Sokoloff, go ahead.
Yeah, this Todd guy doesn't make a very good argument for as to why these UFO experiences are a problem. But I have an issue with the second sentence. Like, read that again. Does that even make sense? It's bad English as far as I'm concerned. Anyone can say about anything.
I think what meant to say is anyone can say anything about anything. Probably what he meant. Clearly, he is not writing in good language. But thank you for pointing that out,
So
Mike.
was he drinking, or is English a second language for him?
No, it's at 8:10 p.m. on day after Christmas. Maybe he had a bah humbug Christmas full of coal. But you know what? He can still keep the house warm with coal.
Yeah, well, you should go back to English class.
Yeah, that's true. But then again, yeah, very much so. But let's take a look at some of the responses to this coming from Kelly Chase, who's a moderator over on UFO Reddit, saying, so how do you propose getting data about the phenomenon if anyone who actually encounters or observes it can't be trusted? Right? Another person, so ignore literally everyone who can't hand us FLIR data and official declassified documents regarding their experience. Oh, you mean like Jake Barber? Seems like an odd approach, given these things do not only happen to Navy pilots. coming from Linda Thompson, who is a longtime experiencer, her whole life, multi-generational experiencer for that matter. Inaccurate. You're lumping everyone together. A large number of experiencers and abductees have military, science, and engineering backgrounds, use scientific equipment to gather data, and many have PhDs and other degrees, including as medical doctors, psychiatrists, and attorneys. Another great point. This is coming from B, who's seen UFOs in the past. I identify as a proud problem then. And she's got some interesting videos of orbs that she's seen, of different crafts that have been around her that, you know, are fully unexplained. Let's go on to the next person. Andy Cheshire says, someone who has never experienced a phenomenon would say something stupid like this. I ask you, who would experiencers be a problem to, and why? Would you have the same biased opinion of someone who's witnessed a murder, a robbery, or a car crash, if you noticed? And every one of these replies to this schmuck's tweets, there's not one reply for this guy. I don't mind living rent-free in someone else's head. That's their decision. Now, here we go. I'm so sorry, but who are you to judge us? You are the problem. And, you know, that brings up the question. Why isn't Lou frickin' gone after his own attorney and told him to shut up and take this tweet down? It's crazy. Tia, your thoughts?
Well, who does he think that buys his books, Lou's books? And who are his supporters?
Well, this isn't from Lou. This is from Lou's new attorney.
Right. But, I mean, he's speaking for Lou. So Lou should come out publicly and apologize. Because it's people like normal people that are bringing this forward. Like who's supporting all this? The American people.
Yeah.
It's highly offensive to me.
But it's not just the people in America who are having these issues, Tia. It's a global issue that's been going on for thousands of years.
I know, and I respect that, but as far as like who he's talking to in the moment is, I don't know, people that are I feel like, yes, it's to everybody, but
yeah.
I'm only speaking, I can't speak for other countries, you know?
Yeah.
I'm speaking for Americans that have gone through this.
Right.
Who do you think is supporting his books, buying his books?
Bingo.
You know, paying for to meet him and just to get a discussion with them, because people aren't able to have these conversations with other people. Like it's bullshit for him to say something like that. It's obviously he shouldn't be the lawyer for Lou, in my opinion.
Yeah, but Lou Dean needed an attack dog, and you'll see what I mean by attack dog in a minute, because this is his first time we've seen this guy tweeting about UFOs, but let's see what other people are saying. I'm sorry, but who are you to judge us? You are the problem. He's not making friends. Next one, Iridium Shift. It's up to everybody to practice discernment. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the veracity of experiences people are having related to this field, I'd recommend simply taking it slow with the topic. Start with meditation. Have a blessed day, sir. Ed Brown, your thoughts?
Well, a couple of things. I tend to be on the playing the devil's advocate side on this one, too, in this regard. You know, if you look back at all the thousands of reports that were filed with Blue Book over the years, I think, 95 of them are false reports that, you know, it was weather and those other events, and people that were identifying Venus as a UFO. And by the way, Venus and Saturn are co-located tonight. So if you want to see a UFO, go out and look at Venus.
I think, wasn't there a planetary alignment of like seven planets or
something? 5 of them, but the two that are very visible, very notably visible, are those two, and they are side by side. It looks like a double UFO, and it looks like there's a green tent on each side too. I'm just saying they are real planets. They are where they're supposed to be. There's nothing weird going on there, but it sure does look like a UFO. Yeah. And that brings me to my point. There's going to be a lot of people calling in reports that don't know what they're talking about because they don't have the experience to differentiate between a natural object in the sky and a UFO.
It's kind of like what we had going on with the drones. There were a lot of people who are like stuck into their phones all the time and they never look up. Then they hear about the drones and they're going outside and looking up, and before you know it, they're calling everything a drone.
Yeah, and absolutely. And another point, again, I'm taking the other side of this. The other point is Lou and the others that have worked in this field have said that they were primarily looking at military reports, and they were not concentrating on civilian reports. And the agencies in the Pentagon that were tracking this down were relying upon those Navy reports and Air Force reports and various military and commercial pilot reports because of the credibility of those eyewitnesses. I'll throw Jake Barber in there too while we're at it.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think that it's a strong statement that guy made, and I think for the most part he did offend a lot of people. But in a way, he's probably right. There's going to be quite a few people reporting things that are just going to be scattered, disinformation, so to speak, inadvertent. They're not trying
inadvertently,
to
but you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, which is clearly what this joker did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a little look at the other side of it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate that, Ed. Michael Sokoloff, your hand is up.
Yeah, just on the non-serious side, if he's selling books, I sure hope he didn't write them in English.
I think he was talking about LUE's books, not necessarily this lawyer's books.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, you have your hand up.
So, never mind.
Okay. Breathe. I usually say, all right, bite your lip. All right, let's go on to it. It's all data. Every piece should be examined when you haven't a clue what you're dealing with. Another person saying anyone saying anything is a problem unless it's repeating of his word and the word of the Lord. No, oh God, Donald Trump, what a schmuck. Let's move on. My experiences are a problem for you, really? Next one. Thanks for your input, Todd. Now everyone go back to your CE5 meditations. Yeah. Then we'll get on to the defamatory letters. Yeah, so I don't think LUE's lawyer on this one, Mr. Todd McMurdy, did LUE a favor by going ahead and putting this out. And I'm going to have to go ahead and share this with the Elizondos. Make sure they've seen this. Should I send it to the boss, Mike?
Oh, absolutely the boss, Thomas.
Yeah.
It's a good point to make. But you and I both know, in regards to the trolls, something like this, it's just pouring gasoline on the fire.
Oh, I know, in the wrong way. All right, I've sent that tweet to the boss. Kim Jong-un.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when you see stuff like this and you have the ability to send it to the right person, you do it.
Right. But here's the thing. It's already out publicly. It was posted. So now you have someone trying to close the barn door after the horse already left.
Yeah. But
right.
It's better to know who's saying what and to bring it up for the audience and bring it up to those people, because it's not a good look for anybody who's trying to bring out disclosure, right?
I agree. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
But we'll see if there's any action taken. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do for that matter. Talking about action being taken, I've got a couple ones here. Remember the message. Let me go ahead and bring this one down here. The document that the tweet we just saw came from Todd McMurdy is the guy's name. Bring this up a little bit so we can all see it. And I already got a response. Okay. All right, coming to us, this next one is coming to us from Hemmer, Wessels, McMurray, attorneys at law. Go ahead and bring this one up. On. All right, let me go ahead and bring it up. Now, if you remember, Mike, this is before you were around. We used to have someone coming on in the chat. His name was Arthur Preston. someone who we got to know and quickly blocked from the show.
Right. I've heard the stories.
He's a troll, for that matter. Let me go
I
ahead.
blocked him too because after I came on the show with you, he started attacking me. And I don't know him. I've never dealt with him or spoken to him at all. He started to act like a troll on social media against me, which tells me you're right. He's absolutely operating like a troll. Not a good sign.
Yep, absolutely. Let's go ahead and get to this one here. This letter is coming from Todd V. McMurdy. I guess it's mcmcmurdy@hemmerlaw.com. And this is dated January 24th, 2025, which is just yesterday.
Yeah, so this is fresh.
Fresh. Sent via email and mail to Arthur Preston, whose address has been obscured. Let's go ahead and get on to this. Demand for retraction. Apparently, this is a 4-page letter. I've only been able to find the first page and parts of other pages. Let's bring this up. Dear Mr. Preston, I write as legal counsel to Luis Elizondo. Come on, the purpose of this letter is to demand that you retract the false and defamatory comments that you recently made as X, as well as Mr. Elizondo demands that you refrain from future defamatory comments. Failure to abide by those requests may result in a civil suit against you for defamation. On Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, you posted a thread on X titled The Master Thread on Lou Elizondo. Post all your evidence of his deception and or connection to Rhino DNC operatives. Ostensibly, the goal of your thread is to disqualify Mr. Elizondo from government service by suggesting that he is opposed to President Trump's and a friend of the Democrat Party, which I can actually say he's not. Your goal of discrediting Mr. Elizondo such that he might not be appointed by President Trump's illustrates your bad faith motivations and supports the allegation that you have acted with actual malice. See Emrev versus Rolling Stone, LLC, 29F, blah, 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 blah. Evidence of a preconceived storyline, ill will, and intent to injure is evidence of actual malice. And he goes on, bringing up yet another case. Courts have upheld findings of actual malice when a defendant failed to investigate a story weakened by inherent probability, internal consistency, or apparently reliable contradictory information. So he's dropping down a bunch of legal information on this, Mike. But clearly, apparently, this lawyer has represented Lou for some period of time, but this is the first time that we've seen him on X so far going in and addressing the situation, correct?
Oh, 100% correct. You're absolutely right about that. But I suspect that the reason he's making a public statement like this, which an attorney usually does not do that in a situation, especially with the type of litigation and lawsuit that they want to begin. So it's unusual, to say the least. And it's not the body of that letter that's being sent in itself has no legal standing. It's simply a cease and desist letter.
Correct, yes.
And it's not been court ordered and signed off by a judge. It has no binding effects whatsoever. So I think he is making this public because he wants to try to apply some sort of pressure from members of the public that support Lou, and is using it as a marketing ploy.
Yeah. Mike, continue on for a second. I need to step away for 1 second. Go ahead. Continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, common sense dictates that if an attorney has a weak case, that they don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of winning, then they're going to try to get as much attention to people who support and back up his client without having to do any actual work of his own, because legally his hands are tied. And at this point, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think that he has a legal standing to enforce anything at this point. I don't agree with the actions of Arthur Preston. And as you heard Thomas and I just mention, we have dealt with it, an individual like him personally as well. But it's limited as far as what direct action you can take in a situation like this. You know, there's an old children's saying, and it goes, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, which is one of the reasons why the court usually doesn't take a lawsuit of this magnitude very seriously. It's more of a nuisance suit because it just ties up the court in something that is basically a he said, she said case. So it's unfortunate to see something like this going on right now currently. I would have preferred, and I'm sure Thomas feels the same way as I do, that maybe this effort should have been put into moving the needle forward on disclosure instead of having a schoolyard fight over comments that were made, regardless of how hard the comments were.
I believe you, Mike. Now I've got another part of the letter here. Let's go ahead and bring it up. While this letter does not catalog all the defamatory statements made in your thread, of which I have to say a lot of the posts that are part of this thread are actually from Red Panda Koala, RPK. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
No, we're not surprised by that whatsoever.
Yeah.
The only defense that he has is to just make this public and hope that the people that may or may not support them will maybe try to push back against it. But like I just gave the legal analysis of this type of litigation, if he had common sense or people around him with some type of legal understanding, this would have been unnecessary to make this public whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I believe he's ignorant to that, which is why they're doing this. So it's
people think
troll behavior.
People think they can go ahead and say things online and there's no consequences. That's not the case, is it?
Well, look, if somebody does something on either X or YouTube and it's threats or defamation, hate speech, they will act on it and take action. But in the legal system in this country, something of this magnitude, this nature, is not looked at as a serious type of offense that is worthy of tying up the court and the judge's time.
Yeah, but
unless there was some severe, overt type of, deadly threats that were made, then that makes it a crime.
Yes.
But I don't think that's what this is. So
right.
I'm just
we'll get to it, but there's some interesting part in this next letter. If we can get to it before we get there, Ed Brown, you have your hand up, and then I'll get back to reading this.
I was going to make two comments. One is the legal system also differentiates between public figures and private figures. Public figure can be criticized pretty heavily and defamed pretty heavily, and you have no standing whatsoever to fight that. And of course, that goes back to politics. You can say Trump is a so-and-so or Biden is a so-and-so, and no one's going to put you in jail for that. But on private ones, the other thing that's required is actual loss. So in other words, for that to go through, and if you assume Lou would be a private person, I think he's a public person, but you assume he's a private person, and then he lost a job because of something someone said, that defamation would definitely be actionable. But most people don't pay attention to that stuff. So this letter is more of a quit because we don't like what you're doing type letter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But, it gets a little bit deeper. Thank you for that insight, Ed. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's You know, when people are public and they get out there, people can say certain things around it, but when it crosses that line, and I think that's the line that LUE's lawyer is trying to go ahead and define here. So here we go. You have no idea when you're defaming someone. You have no idea about the limits of free speech in the United States. Even an internationally famous person such as Lou Elizondo is still entitled to be free from defamatory comments. The other problem you face is that you are not a journalist, so many of the defenses that a journalist might rely upon to avoid defamation liability are not available to you. Instead, you are a private citizen running amok on social media. You have made yourself a target defendant through your false statements, harassments, and ignorance. People like you cannot afford, here's the kicker, people like you, let me bring this a little bit higher so the audience can see it, there we go. People like you cannot afford attorneys. This means litigation will be financially devastating to you. I raise this only to show you that you are out of your depth and playing with fire. Your braggadocious statements on social media accomplish nothing, solicit no interest, and generate no additional views. You and your 2,000 followers are not heard beyond a few likes and retweets. Oh, he's getting vicious on this one. Your effort to bolster your follower base, likes and retweets, at the expense of Mr. Elizondo's reputation puts you in a bad position. Is gaining 10 or 15 followers worth being sued for your defamatory statements? Please give this serious thought. You know, this is a well-written letter, I have to say so far.
Don't you see a little humor in that, though, in that what the lawyer has just done is defame the guy who he's accusing of defaming somebody else.
Right. But he did it in a private letter. And if the individual who received this letter decided to go ahead and post it, basically that individual is defaming himself. Correct, Ed?
Well, yes, but you got to admit, he has now been exposed on Disclosure tonight, and that makes it rather public.
Yeah. Well, he did it on Twitter, and that's even more public for that matter. But yeah, it's an interesting situation. Let me go ahead and find the last part of the letter that I saw here a second ago in my retweets. All right, we've got the end of it. Here we go. Let me just bring it up here right in my browser, maybe a little bit easier. You know, apparently this is 4 pages in length. We've only gotten the first page, part of the second page. Let's bring up the last page and go ahead and show it here, because I think this is newsworthy and deserves being covered. Because we're all interested in LUE, we all support LUE, and if we see LUE's lawyers going ahead and slapping back against a troll, it's about time. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Where did that go? Video, solo guest. All right, so Mr. Elizondo, can't do this, demands that you retract your statements, take down your thread, and refrain from future defamatory statements about him. While you allege on social media that Mr. Elizondo was bluffing, I can assure you that what is happening is sorting and picking the best defendant. This may not be you, but it could be. The best thing to do is to take down the post and read up on how to avoid making defamatory comments, citing Deranged versus TSP Newspapers Incorporated, blah, 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 etc. So, govern yourself accordingly. Todd V. McMurdy. CC Lou Elizondo. Interesting. Your thoughts on, coming from my aspect, this is a well-written letter. It's a good slap. It lets Mr. Arthur Preston know that if he continues his stuff, that he may have to go ahead and hire lawyers and defend himself in court, which is never cheap, right, Mike?
Oh, no. And usually in an action like this, the only party that wins in the end is usually the lawyer.
Right.
Right.
That reminds me of a picture that I saw at in an attorney's office while I was going for arbitrate. I was dealing with a company who I had sued and prevented the individual from flying out of the United States because it was a federal court case. And coming out of that particular piece, in the back part of the lawyer's offices, there was a picture up on the wall, right? And it showed, it was called the divorce. And what it showed was a husband and a wife both pulling on a cow. The husband was pulling on the collar around the cow, trying to get it to go this way. And the wife had her hand up, pulling on the tail, right? You can picture that kind of, right? And
100%, yeah.
Now, the interesting part about it, who was sitting on the little stool milking the cow? The lawyer. Meaning they're going to be fighting it from both ends. And who's going to be milking the situation and taking all the money out of it? The lawyer. No one ever wins in a court case. They do, but they don't.
No, it's ultimately the lawyer in the end who benefits the most from both sides of it.
Yeah.
And that's a classic example about the cow. And you know what? It applies to many facets of the criminal justice system. It doesn't matter what the particular specialty is or what court it happens to be in, either civil or criminal. But this is where we're at with something like this with LUE. I wonder where this is ultimately going to go in the end. What do you think?
I think Arthur Preston is one of many in a long list that would probably include Chupacabra, would include, I would say, more than not, someone who would be more liable in this particular kind of a situation. Arthur Preston said a bunch of different stuff in his post, but a lot of the posts that are in there are all from Red Panda Koala. And I would say RPK, more than anything, is the person who is more of risk potentially, along with Arthur. Maybe they need to go ahead and go after him as well if they haven't yet.
Maybe. It's going to be up to LUE and McMurdy to ultimately decide what direction they want to take this in moving forward.
And just for reference, if you're dealing with in defense in this kind of a situation, Mike, I think people are going to be paying what, from $350 to $500 an hour?
Easily, Thomas. And that includes with the attorneys, when you're on the phone with them, they bill you billable hours. When you send an email back and forth for them to take the time to read it, they bill you billable hours. So any communication, you're being charged quite handsomely.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the reality of it. Well, you've dealt with lawyers, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And right. I actually had to go ahead and go against my employer, and I had to hire a lawyer. And yes, anytime I had a phone call with him or even sent him an email and he had to respond to it. But here's the thing, even if you're only on the phone with someone or send him an email and it takes them 30 seconds or a minute to go ahead and actually read that, they're going to charge you down to the quarter or a half hour, depending on their billing practices. So just them reading an email or answering yes or no on a phone call could still wind up costing you a couple $100, if not more.
Each and every time. So there's no escape with something like this, and it becomes quite a pretty penny very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Now, jumping away from this one, we've kind of covered this one to a degree. Yes, Mick in the audience is saying this letter would have cost $1,000 at least. Oh no, this is actually like a 3.5 page letter. No, you're talking thousands of dollars, not $1,000. Just saying.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're right about that estimate, and they round up, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to hit you for the maximum amount they legally can.
Looks like the book money is being put to good use.
I probably would have put it to different use than this, but we'll see where it goes. Ultimately, in the end.
Absolutely, Daryl Zernick, you have your hand up, my friend.
I just had to say the thing that must be sticking in Preston, whatever his name is, in his craw is the one line in there where he says, "People like you cannot afford attorneys."
But true, we don't know what Preston's job is and whether or not he is a Bitcoin investor. So he may be able to go ahead and afford attorneys. Even one's better than losing. You never know.
Right.
Yeah. All right. And our next piece coming up as we bring this one to a close. Mike, we have one of the people we know out there at the Psychoactivio podcast that's out there. And Ryan Graves is on here talking about the drones on the East Coast, saying it's technology of a different form. Shall we watch it?
Oh, please do.
Yeah, can't wait to talk about this one. Here we go. Let's bring this one up and play it.
They are having a very difficult time detecting these on radar, on infrared. They're not having luck determining a source location based off of RF transmissions. So, whoever is operating these seems to be exhibiting, technology of a different form, right? We'd have to assume that these are very sophisticated unmanned systems that are utilizing advanced signal management that's defeating multi-band detection systems. So again, is that a criminal activity doing that? Is that coming from phantom ships? Those don't seem very likely when you kind of add up all those pieces. And I think that's where it leaves us with the big question mark. I don't think we can rule out an adversary at this point necessarily. We certainly can rule in a lot of misidentification once the media picked it up. But, where does that lead us with the ones that, don't fit that bill? And we don't have that answer yet. I think it's premature to make the assumption that because we can't identify them, they must be quote unquote aliens. Mm-hmm. But they are fitting this category of exhibiting advanced capabilities beyond the state of the art, and very much fit the bill of a UAP. And I think it's important to remember that this started in 2022 at Langley Air Force Base, happened again in 2023 at Langley Air Force Base, same time period. And Langley Air Force Base is, essentially the Air Force equivalent of the base I was operating at. It's only separated by about 100 miles, which is basically nothing.
Okay, guys, I messed up. It's not Psychoactivio. It's actually Kristen Harloff himself. My fault, Mike.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned. I'm sure everything will be fine.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Let's play the rest of it. It's a good clip. And sorry, audience. Yes, I've got a migraine going and I screwed up today. So we're not perfect, are we, Mike?
Oh, by no means. And, it's not a serious issue. I wouldn't worry about it.
Here we go. Let's continue.
So this is like an adjacent sister airspace to where we were having all these incidents from 2013-ish to even today. So can we tie them together? It's. I don't think we can definitively make that statement right now, but it's that's what adds to, I think, the mysteriousness of this event that's occurring. It's happened over years. It's been adjacent to areas that have had reports of this for nearly a decade, if not longer, and we're still no closer, it seems, to understanding what they are.
So yes, Mike, the drone situation is still going off on the East Coast. And we haven't gotten an answer from Trump yet, which hopefully that'll be coming in. Well, we'll get something in the coming days. Let's just go ahead and look at it that way. I have a good feeling based on what Trump said. He said he was going to do. He's actually following through and doing that on a lot of things people thought he never would do. But he signed many executive orders. I have really good faith we're going to get an answer from it. But it's still, the drone situation has never stopped, has it?
No, you and I have been covering this since it basically began. And even though mainstream media has not been continuing to cover it, it hasn't stopped. They're still in Jersey. They're still appearing over nuclear and military bases. It's just that mainstream media is not bothering to cover it. So, interesting. That's what it is. So, yeah, it's still going on, Thomas.
Absolutely. Andy W., go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to follow that from a UK perspective. We had our friend Daryl, Liberty Wing UK, coming back last night, and he said potentially that things are still being seen over RAF Lakenheath. over this part of the world in the UK. Again, news moves on. In the US, even though these things appear to be still being seen, the news cycle has moved on to the next big thing. You've had your POTUS has been inaugurated now. But the news stories have shifted. I think that's what's happening here. I'm in the wrong part of the UK to be seeing these things, unfortunately. But yeah, here in the UK, we've had other news cycles, and if it's still ongoing, the public consciousness is very, very short. We seem to, as a species, have a day or two. If the news is not in your area, after a day or two, your consciousness, your thoughts on the subject of whatever's being brought forward on the news is swayed in a different direction. Smoke and mirrors, and we'll move everything over there. So yeah, I think we still need people reporting on these things when they're being cited, and all across the world. It needs to be kept in the forefront of the news, and not pushed back. To the back end of the queue.
I believe with you completely. Now, I've got a story here that's a day or so old at the most, coming to us from News Nation and Ross Coulthart. Let's go ahead. So it looks like while a lot of the media is still has clamped down on the discussion, a lot of some stories are still coming out from Ross and News Nation. Let's see what they have to say. This is just a quick 1 minute and 11 clip. Let's go ahead and play it, folks. Here we go.
The FBI has admitted that after weeks and weeks and weeks of surveillance in the New Jersey area, they have not been able to find the source of these drones, and indeed they haven't recovered even a single one of them.
How is that possible?
In fact, it's just amazing. I think the thing that's most concerning is
I have to bring this up really quick here, Mike. Kash Patel has not been appointed yet as the new director of the FBI, has he?
No, sir, he has not. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly how this is going to play out.
So while the FBI is saying, we can't figure any of this stuff out, their new commander, the new person who's over the FBI, the new secretary, the new person who's the head of the FBI, has not arrived yet. And once he gets in there, that story may change very quickly, won't it?
I hope it does. And when that happens, we'll be covering it very closely.
Yeah. Now, we do have the new head of the Secretary of Defense. We have the new head of the CIA. We haven't gotten the new head of the FBI or the new director of national intelligence, who basically is over all the intelligence communities. I think, if there's any delay in getting the drone information out from those three-letter agencies, including the DOD, CIA, FBI, etc., National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NGA, all of them, it's going to take the new leadership to come in, give them some time to shake the tree, get the bad apples out of there, and to actually bring out the truth. So while Trump has I'll put it this way, is it safe to say that although Trump has indicated a willingness to bring the information out, it may take time because we're still dealing with the old leadership in these agencies?
No, you're absolutely correct about that. We still have the old guard that hasn't been completely removed from preventing disclosure from moving forward. But
correct.
I'm sure in a short amount of time moving forward, that will change.
Yeah.
And when it does, we'll see what comes from that.
So patience is what it takes. We have the right person in place, an anti-corruption, an anti-cover-up guy who's also wants to be the people's president. So that hits the big sway of answering the public opinion. We want these answers. It also hits the big point of saying we've got a corrupt part of the government that's been hiding this stuff from the elected officials, including the president, and it needs to be unmasked.
You're right. It does. And the first place to begin, at least for me and you, we'd like to know exactly what this drone flap was about that the previous administration was covering up.
Yeah.
Tooth and nail from the public. That would definitely be a step in the right direction and very interesting, depending on what would come out.
And we'll play a little bit more, but Jay Paul reiterates kind of what we were saying on last night's show. Hollywood disclosure is to get your cash and lead you down a never-ending path of watch my movie or buy my book. Have me on your podcast? My new movie is in the works. That kind of calls down where a lot of things people in Hollywood are, isn't it?
Well, I would say almost entirely all of them. That was a fair statement that he made, and it really covers this topic in a really interesting way as far as what's actually been going on.
Right. In equivalent to what I was saying last night, it's like take the declassification of everything dealing with Kennedy, RFK, JFK, and Martin Luther King, and take all that information and lock it up behind a movie. And if you want to see the truth, you got to pay the piper.
Yeah, you got to pay to play.
Yeah.
Which like you mentioned, and we were talking about on the show last night, it takes away from the credibility of any actual disclosure that the effort is trying to convey to the public if the public has to reach into their pocket to hear any of that information.
Right.
So you're absolutely right about that.
Absolutely. Let's watch the rest of this clip here. Sorry, I had to pause it in between. It was the right place to do it. Let's watch the rest of it. Here we go.
Definition, Marky, anything, any kind of object that is flying in restricted airspace like these objects are, I refuse to call them drones because we don't even know if they're drones because we haven't recovered one.
Good point.
But what's interesting is Enigma Labs, which is a UAP research organization based in New York, they released a report today which said that the drones over New Jersey have in fact continued. And it may not be correct to assert that there's been a huge decline. New Jerseyites are reporting them and they're still seeing them, and they're somewhat frustrated that they're still being gaslit with the accusation that they're misidentifying normal aircraft because they're very, very sure they're seeing anomalous objects.
Yeah, and they definitely are. Well, it's anomalous because these objects, Mike, they're not showing up on flight radar. They look like one thing, they look like another, but there's nothing definite to lock down what these things are, why they're there, what's going on, is there?
They can't be tracked. They can disappear and turn off. There hasn't been any way, there's no heat signature that comes from any of these drones.
Yeah.
It's unusual as far as the whole aspect of this since it began. And they've been over all the military bases, restricted airspace, and all of the anti-drone warfare, the equipment they have has been ineffective and useless.
Now, one thing to bring up really quick, all of the drone bans that we had, Mike, all expired on January 17th, the day before the inauguration.
Right.
And they haven't been put back up again.
Right. That tells us that it is not a prosaic drone you could buy off the shelf because those bans no longer work. So those drones no longer work.
Not only that, the day before the inauguration, right? DJI, which has like 75-80% of the market locked up, majority of all the people out there, 80% I think of the people who have a drone or DJI. DJI used to take information for areas that were banned from the FAA, like over the White House or over the halls of Congress or over airports or over no-flight zones. There was actually geofencing on those areas, and if you were within an area, you tried to launch a drone, it wouldn't take off. And if you tried to fly a drone into the area, it would come to a stop and not go through that geofence. Now, on the day before the inauguration happened, I believe it was on January 17th, DJI dropped that functionality and said, you know what? We voluntarily did this, but now all we're going to do is place up a warning for the drone operators to let them know they're about to go into an area that they shouldn't be in. Right. And although they weren't required, and their geofencing that they had in the past was something compulsory that, yeah, it's close enough.
And they completely disregarded the compulsory requirement.
No, they had a compulsory requirement. They did on their own, but that compulsory requirement wasn't from the government. It wasn't from the FAA or anyone. So they basically just took it and they dropped it and they stopped supporting that functionality, taking it down from keeping the drone from operating those areas to basically putting up a warning sign to the users on their interface for control saying, hey, be careful, you're about to go into an off-limit area.
Right. So from a corporate perspective, it sounds like they are trying to capitalize on the marketing of these mysterious drones that have been appearing. And they want people to allude that they may have a part in this. Because
well, not really. I would say they're just, if anything, it's more of a Chinese company saying, screw you, Trump. They did it the day before the inauguration was going to happen, which basically means that if Trump and different people were out there, people could have brought in kamikaze or weapons, if you want to call it, enhanced drones to do whatever to do their bidding.
Right. That's another good point. No, you're right about that. That very well could be the case as well. I agree.
Oh, yeah. It's a troubling situation, but you know what? If this is where it's at and what we're dealing with, it seems like, it's within the rights and the ability of the drone companies to go ahead and do this. Now, it doesn't prevent Congress or from passing a law or the president signing an executive order requiring DJI to put that geofencing back on again. And he could say, if you don't do it, we're going to ban your product from coming in the United States. And that wouldn't be a good thing, would it, Mike? Uh-oh.
No, it's going to be, they could also say that they can ban all current devices from operating within the United States and cause big controversy for the company itself. It would definitely hurt the dollar share for the company, its profit margin. They wouldn't want that kind of government entanglement to occur. I would imagine. I could be wrong, but
I think you're pretty accurate on that one. Now, bringing up another story here. This is just a quick 20-second segment that it's worth downloading to go ahead and show. Back in 2023, Pete Hegseth, who's now the head of the DOD, asked who is now the new CIA director, John Ratcliffe, whether aliens exist during the interview on UFOs back in 2023. Remember, these people are in extreme power within the government. You've got John Ratcliffe, who's the new head of the CIA. You've got Pete Hegseth, who's the new head of the DOD. Who, we gotta get someone to get a message to Hegseth to get rid of Susan Goff. My goodness, our beauty queen. She's such a beauty, Mike.
Oh dear God, please no. It's torture.
Oh, I won't do it.
Me and the audience, yeah.
All
Please
right.
spare us.
Well, here we go. 22 seconds. Here we go.
So, John, treat us like an adult here. You've seen the intel. It's January 15th in the year 2023. Are aliens real?
Well, I can't talk to you about, any potential alien life. So I'll just leave it at that.
There you go. That's what is that?
But there you go, Mike. He didn't say no. He didn't say, I can't talk about that. He was like, I can't talk about that. I think he was potentially caught off, what do you call it?
He was caught off guard.
Caught off guard, thank you.
A prepared response, sounds like to me.
Yeah. But, I think we've got I think we've got the best chance, potentially. The best chance we've had since I've been covering Disclosure, since I've been involved in this. I think we're at a point where we're at the closest point that we can possibly get to disclosure at this point in time. And I can't wait for it to come together, tell you the truth.
Well, we know that any time the Democratic Party was in power, disclosure was the furthest thing on their agenda. Now, potentially, at least, we have the prospect of the new administration looking to balance the books in some regard on this subject. Hopefully, it plays out that way, and we'll be there for every step of it, when and if it does. And it should be interesting, at the very least, in my opinion, Thomas.
Oh, I know. I got the giggles on this one. You're going to laugh, Mike, when you hear about this one. You know, Trump was just in California, right?
Yeah, covering the wildfires.
And he went to his first rally today. Took him long enough to go ahead and thank all the people in the great state of Nevada for voting for him, right?
Right.
I'm not going to lead into everybody. I think our audience will get this one. They will enjoy it for a good reason. Remember how Trump went and let's just watch this. I'm not going to say it. Let's just go ahead and play it. I know this is political stuff, but I just laugh at the different things that are going on, and it's so beautiful. Let's get to it. Here we go. Smaller so you can see the words as they're popping up. Thank you to the people who have done this. Bring it down so we can see that wonderful hair. All right, let's play it.
On day one, I immediately halted the hiring of any new IRS agents. You know, they hired or tried to hire 88,000 new workers to go after you, and we're in the process of developing a plan to either terminate all of them or maybe we'll move them to the border. I think we're going to move them to the border.
What do you think about that one, Mike?
I think that, to be perfectly honest with you, that is the best news I've heard so far to date from this administration across the board. That IRS hiring that they did and the previous administration changing the IRS tax code reporting to now mandate that if you have in excess of $600 entering into your bank account, your checking account, it has to officially be reported to the IRS for income tax, which has never been done before. It was extreme when they proposed it.
Yeah.
It was even worse when they put it into effect. And then they had this massive hiring of enough IRS agents to basically go after everybody. If you exceed, excuse me, if you exceed a $600 annual limit, meaning if $601 within a 12-month period enters into your account, you have to report it. But that doesn't take into consideration that people have salaries, people have bills that they have to pay. And that's why they didn't have this type of a structured reporting mechanism, because it would be ridiculous to do something like this. But the previous administration, that's exactly what they did. So for Trump to act so positively on behalf of the American public, to remove something that never should have been put into place in the first place, it's the best news I've heard so far today, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. I saw that one and I was just got a big smile on my face because no one wants to get audited by the IRS. You know, I actually got audited by the IRS years ago when I had my company, Handheld Games. And when we were done with it, the IRS owed me $150.
Yeah.
But I paid you know how much I had to pay for my accountant to go ahead and take us through that audit? It sucked. But one day we had the doorbell rang on the building to go ahead and get him in the secure way. And sure enough, the IRS popped in unannounced for an audit. It was wonderful. Not really, but.
No, not at all. No. And it's completely unnecessary. It's a waste of taxpayer money and time. It's really a big hassle to the American public for them just simply living their lives and conducting their business.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like unnecessary things like putting raisins in potato salad. That just doesn't belong. Just doesn't belong. And I know some people out there said, you got to try it. No, thanks.
Right.
Yes. All right. And our next clip we've got going here, Mike, going back to, what do you call it? That UFO podcast from Annie McGrillen. Now, guys, this is a great podcast. You should go ahead and watch it. We've got another clip coming from good old UAP James saying that the Trump administration, senior officials taking UFO whistleblower Jake Barber's claims extremely seriously. Let's see how Ross delivers this message to everybody. Get to this. Here we go, everybody. Let's go ahead and play it. Down a little. All right, here we go.
If you don't accept Jake Barber, then go away. I don't care. Bottom line is there are people in Congress and people in the very senior levels of the new Trump administration who are taking what he says extremely seriously. And it's not the carping critics out there in social media UFO land that we have to convince. It's Congress and also the new administration. And I can tell you, without giving anything away, there is a high degree of receptiveness to hearing his allegations and dealing with them and investigating them properly. And I think we're at the beginning of a long reveal.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. If we can reveal as much as they possibly can, that's what I say, Mike.
Oh, absolutely. We'll take anything we can get at this point. It's been in excess of 80 years so far to date, if not longer. And we haven't gotten a shred of anything concrete. And if we get anything at this point, it's going to be more than welcome. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, same.
I hope everything works out. Yeah, it's going to be interesting for 2025.
You know, disclosure, you know, is truly seems to be incoming, Mike. I never thought I'd be saying it, but we've got more signs right now about disclosure happening and moving forward. Again, I may have said this earlier, than we have so far for the last, 5 years at least, if not 75 years?
Right. Because, look, LUE came out back in 2017. It's, at this point, that's 8 years. And prior to that, none of this was going on in regards to the government, the public, or any direct participation. So when LUE came out 8 years ago, he got the needle moving publicly. And from then to now, this is where we're at. So, yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I agree.
Oh, absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. Now, I know we were talking about drones a minute ago. There's another video popping up. Let's go ahead and bring it up. This is someone coming, I believe, from New Jersey, who's saying, this is horrifying. This was less than 100 feet above my house. Remember how we were looking at some of the drones before in the past, and they looked like what we were dealing with was something potentially like a 757 or a commercial airliner, was relatively small, but it wasn't.
Fixed-wing aircraft, yeah, it was
fixed-wing aircraft and everything. Let's go ahead and bring up this little clip here. Let me bring it up on that one with you, Mike. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit and go ahead and play it. The person who's watching this is saying the craft is about 100 feet above their house. We can see we've got something here that looks like a jet, but clearly what we've got going on here isn't a jetliner, because one thing that we're going to see is missing. There's no windows and the lights are in the wrong place for this to actually be
right above us.
Here we go. Let me go ahead and bring this in. It's potentially not a jet. So we've got objects that are flying around slow over people's houses. Granted, it's going ahead and making noises like a potential jet, but it's not a jet.
Jets don't move that slowly, Thomas.
No, they don't.
And jets are not going to be flying at 100 feet or less.
No
way.
What's interesting is you can see one engine on this side of the plane. I guess maybe that's the other engine, but why isn't it lit up the same way?
don't know.
Yeah, and generally when planes have things flashing, the red light and the green light, it's on the wings, not on the bottom of the body. Look at that lighting up. There's actually red lights on the engines itself. That's not a typical commercial airliner, I don't believe.
That's not a typical drone. Are you kidding me?
No.
Right. No heat signature. No detection. It's I don't know what the hell that is, but it's unusual.
Yeah, it is. And if it was a jetliner, you'd see the little lights from the windows all the way along the edge of the plane as it's flying over.
You would.
Yeah.
You absolutely would. Now, let me remind you that in New Jersey, residential homes are roughly 3 stories, which is 10 feet per story. So it's like 30 feet, not including the tree line. This thing is twice the height from the ground that the house is, so it's right overhead.
Yeah.
That should scare the shit out of anybody.
I would think so.
You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy W., you have your hand up, my friend?
Yeah, something I'm going to say about this. Why is it actually completely illuminated?
What was that, Andy?
Why is it completely illuminated? It wouldn't be like that from the ground. If you're looking up at an aircraft, that looks like a black of night sky, yeah? You would not see the craft illuminated like that. I know it looks as like it's.
I would say it's more of a modern camera that can handle low light a lot better than usual cameras can handle. But if you can look at the sky, there definitely is some light going on here. It does look like it's not. We've got some stars going on, but it's an interesting piece nonetheless. Just showing that these things that are questionable are still flying over the skies. And yes, it looks like a plane, but a lot of times I've seen people with model planes that have turbines on them that look like a 757 or a 747, but they're only about 10, 15 feet long. Freezerman 71, you have your hand up, my friend.
Hello, Thomas. I saw something like that above my house probably about a month and a half ago. And I know what our planes up here look like, but that almost looks like the same lights I saw. It wasn't like on the wingtips. It was like underneath the belly of the plane.
Right.
So it almost looks like that.
Yeah. It does, my friend. It's one of those things we just have to look at and take a second look at it. And if they're trying to fool us, that's a good way to fool us. Put up something that, could it be a model jet? Possibly. It's hard to tell what it would be, but I don't think someone who had a model jet like that would be flying it around it in the evening, would they, Mike?
No, they sure as hell wouldn't. Plus, if you remember in Jersey, when the local and federal government took place, they took action. They banned flight drone. All of these drones flying. So no, it wouldn't be operating, not legally. So yeah, it's I don't know what the hell that thing is, but I'm very interested to see what Trump will bring forward publicly on it. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it, my friend. Absolutely. Daryl, you have your hand up, my friend?
I'd also just say that there's no way that thing can fly that slow and stay aloft. Not with those. There's no airplane that flies that slow and stays aloft.
Right. Now, it is making a jet sound, but we've heard that before from some of the actual planes when people have done it. Although it's moving slow, it's making the sound of a jet. That could almost be like a false sound pattern being projected from the device to, beyond the appearance saying it's a commercial airliner, to go ahead and give the audio profile as well to confuse the residents.
Yeah, it's audio camouflage.
Yeah. It's all part of it, my friend. Let me go ahead and see if there's anything else we haven't covered yet.
No, it's about that time, it seems like.
Oh, I do have one clip. I know we're going a little bit late here. Let's just go ahead and play it and get it out of the way. Coming to us from Redacted Media, Gary Nolan on his research into the caudate putamen, part of the basal ganglia that interacts with information for motor control, cognition, and emotion. This is the part of the brain that Gary Nolan has seen advanced if you how I would call this, advanced interactivity going within part of that brain that's not normal for people, for general and people. And what they found is, I believe, that is some of the activity is being linked to people who have had UFO experiences and been abducted. Let me go ahead and bring up this little clip. I have not played it yet, so don't kill me if it's not exactly as I described it, but let's go ahead and watch this clip as our last one of the evening. Here we go. I've got that. Let's go ahead and play it. Here we go.
There are two different brain scans, one from a normal individual and one from an individual who had claimed some kind of injury post a UFO experience. So there's nobody who could look at these two brain scans and not see that one of them has a problem. And the second one here on the right is the one that has the problem. And you can see the clear areas of dead tissue throughout the brain. Now, what caused it is still...
Oh, hold on a second here. We've got music going in the background that could screw us in a long time. I'm going to... Let's see if we can play this. Let's go a little bit farther. Get him talking
to these individuals. And so obviously an interest of mine would be collecting enough so-called experiencers to see if they have a common brain structure.
You know, that's one thing we've heard Dr. Gary Nolan talk a lot about, Mike, but we haven't seen any kind of study like that or information come out that he's trying to go ahead and get people as part of his study.
Right, but he can't talk about that due to HIPAA laws and privacy for health.
Well, he could talk about that. I want to have a study on this. Please, go ahead, let me know, get in contact with me. He could then talk about the study. He could talk about results, as long as he doesn't reveal any personally identifying information known as PII that would be restricted under HIPAA. Let's say the people signed a waiver, he could go ahead and say people's names, but if they didn't sign a waiver, he could talk about results, he could show scans, but he just couldn't identify specifically who the people are.
Right. So if any studies like that have been conducted or will be conducted, I guess we'll have to wait and see if he makes any announcements moving forward.
Yeah. You can tell I have no familiarity with HIPAA or PII or any of that. Let's go ahead and watch this. Here we go.
So we have taken brain MRIs of many individuals now. We've applied artificial intelligence programs to look at the neural connectivity.
Interesting. So we're using AI to figure this stuff out.
Maps. And we already know of one difference with so-called experiencers. And what we noticed here were these, you can kind of see these interleaved.
Hold on a second here. All right. What does he have on here? T2 and T2 flare, prove connections are neurons, savant IQs, multiple episodes, hallucinations, not, but they're awake. Nuclear family, 7-year-old. So he's got information. See this? They've got information that's up here, Mike, that they can go ahead and show. And it talks about the individual, but it doesn't identify them. So what he's showing here, what he's talking about, completely legal. And this is the kind of information we have. I'd love to go ahead and see the results in some kind of study, whether it's peer-reviewed or not, but I know Gary wants his stuff peer-reviewed. I can't wait to see the results on this one. Let's listen a little bit more.
Were these, you can kind of see these interlacing fingers between these two regions of the brain here, the head of the caudate and the putamen. That's in the basal ganglia. You have one on each side of your brain. There's a close-up of the area, and these connectivities across the region are really not supposed to be there. In fact, in a normal individual, they're only in here.
So that's interesting. This is the first time, Mike, that I've seen this explained in that detail. So specifically what he's saying is all these connections that we see going on of the nerve tissue going throughout it, there's been a modification to the genetic structure of this part of the brain. Very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it. And that would indicate then that the individual who is subjected to this would have advanced function that the normal brain doesn't normally possess. So yeah, it seems to be some sort of engineering on the biological level of the brain itself.
Exactly. Now, AK in the audience is saying addictive people have this. We'll have to look into that and check that out. Thank you. I appreciate that info, AK.
This is more circuitry per unit millimeter connecting areas of the brain that normally aren't connected, which means it's an ability or a dysfunction even that the
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the Super TV mode.
majority of people don't have. You only find it about 1 in 100 to 1 in 200 people. But in our cohort, it was present in more than 50%.
So more than 50% of the people who have thought they've had experiences have this kind of hyperactivity. I love it.
About this area of the brain and what it does. It is an information gathering area that listens to all sensory input. That means sight, sound, feeling.
Got that around. They're going to strike me on that one. But anyway, great way to end off the show, Mike. Say the least.
Before you end off the show, our friend Jeremy, the alien scientist, he jumped in the back. So if he has something to say before we close everything out, welcome, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us. Feel free, if you have something on your mind, to share it with us in the audience.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that BAE Systems developed adaptive tank camouflage armor. There's a video, you can look it up. It's about 13 years old, which means the technology is probably like 15 to 20 years old for these hexagon chromatic panels that can literally change the appearance of these tanks and make it look like an SUV, make it look like a small car.
Right.
They can make it look like a bunch of cows if they wanted. They have these technologies. So when we hear the reports out of New Jersey about these drones that look like a glowing orb of orange light and then it's shape shifted into a different airplane, we have to take these people who witness these things more seriously than we take, Mick West, who says that, the lights, clouded out the image and it was just an optics problem, because we have very sophisticated stealth optics in the drone program already.
Right.
In that video, it talks about applying these chromatic panels to helicopters and ships and stuff. So if you have drones flying around with this type of adaptive stealth cloaking technology on them, they could literally shape-shift them and make them look like
it's almost like a stealth masking. I guess it's cloaking. We would think about cloaking from radar and stuff, but this is a visual cloaking that they potentially have going.
Yes, and it gets more advanced too. Like I'm sure it's gotten much more advanced since those systems they were developing, and you just have to think about what do they have now in terms of what are they applying to these stealth drones that can hide them and disguise them, because obviously if they're not ours, then they're someone else's, and they might have this technology too. So I just wanted to point that out because I saw Mick West had made a big debunk victory over this whole drone thing, saying that these guys just are misinterpreting what they're seeing, and there's other explanations out there with technology, and I just wanted to point that out.
If Mick West and some of these other people are getting paid for by one of the 3-letter agencies and it's all a cover-up, I'd love to see that information declassified from the White House. What do you think?
Well, the whole revelation, I just found out about this Sandcorp connection to Battelle. I mean Arrow, and the Battelle connection with Arrow, that, Moultrie was basically working for Battelle. Kirkpatrick reports to Moultrie. Moultrie reports to Battelle. He tried to scrub Battelle from his resume, but Battelle built the Manhattan Project Demon Cores. They have a higher security clearance than the president of the United States. So if there was anywhere to hide the UFO file, it would be in one of these quasi-governmental organizations that are private, nonprofit institutions that untouchable by FOIA and have existed since they created this secrecy for the atomic bomb.
But who else is free from FOIA and gets away from any requests is the DOE, the Department of Energy.
That's true, the Department of Energy, and it's interesting the connections between Battelle and the DOE. But this whole issue of Arrow giving $4 million to this company called Sandcorp.
Mike, take it for a second. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I looked into this company Sandcorp, and they're literally a AI troll farm. Like they do perception management, and they use AI systems to, perception management. So you have to wonder how many of these trolls or people that you're interacting with online on a daily basis are actually real people. When that comes to mind, at $4 million would pay for a heck of a lot of disinformation and troll farms, if that's what they, I think that payment and that contract needs to be very thoroughly investigated. There needs to be some other type of investigation into that, because it's very clear now that Arrow was not set up as a open door disclosure to the public. It's been run by the companies that are the very companies like Battelle that are accused of being the orchestrators of all this UFO secrecy since the heyday of it. So it's very suspicious why that connection has not been further probed. Especially, I brought that up to Senator Gillibrand in person when I talked to her at the Senate hearing there.
Yeah, I remember that. So let me ask you a quick question about the, you said 15, 20 years ago, they were able to do video camouflage. We heard in this video clip on this drone in New Jersey, it wasn't just video, it was audio. It was putting out a potentially might have been a false signal as well, false sound of a jet engine. Do you know particularly if that type of technology currently exists on an object or vehicle?
Mike, it's called a speaker, so yeah.
No, but it would have to be not just repeating a loop of an audio. It would probably have AI, if it's sophisticated, that would match the movement and maybe the altitude of the object as it is moving forward. So people would be, fooled into thinking it's actually something that it's not. You know what I'm saying, Jeremy?
Yeah, you also have to consider the decibel output of a jet engine, and
right.
That's a pretty loud amplifier.
Right.
So I don't know specifically. I'll look into that though, Mike. That's a good point, and I don't know of anything offhand, but I'm going to search the patents and see what I can find. Definitely, that's a good lead. Thank you for that.
No, thank you for looking into it, and you can, if you find something, send it over to me. It's Mike@disclosuretonight.com. I'd definitely like to see what you find out, Jeremy.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We got one last person with their hand up, Leonard Seymour. Go ahead, Leonard.
Hey, you got me?
We got you.
Hey, I just want to say thank you to Jeremy for bringing up the topic about tech wars, because it's here and it's something that everybody needs to be focused on, because you got a bunch of do-nothing politicians in our Congress, and they're not going to do anything until they get godsmacked. So thank you, Jeremy, and I hope you're an inspiration to all the young people growing up with this, because a lot of us here in the chat, we're not going to see disclosure, but you have to keep the battle going. So thank you, brother.
Don't lose hope just yet, man. 2025 is going to be a banger year, and that Jesse Michaels interview with Sal Pays was fire. It's only the start. I really hope this is the floodgates on the scientific disclosure, because that's going to bring it all out of the woodwork right there.
Oh yeah, that's what I've been looking for, Jeremy, is also the scientific part of it, because we have a bunch of people who are in the military going out and all talking about it, but it's the scientists, those are the real people that have the chops and have the deep information about this stuff.
Absolutely. And then, you have this guy blowing up a Cybertruck talking about anti-gravity technology. And I guess, some of the physicists just did a report on this too. There's a video that came out on Sabina Hassenfelder. She's a big physics channel, and she just did a whole report on this anti-gravity stuff. And she really dropped the ball on that one, I must say, as far as she missed a whole lot and focused almost all of it on like Eric Weinstein for some strange reason. I don't get that, but it's really weird how the academic and the mainstream physics community responds to this stuff and the kind of stuff that they actually find when they try to do research on it, because some certain key search terms, unless you know the search terms and the names of the scientists, you're not going to find the unacknowledged special access programs or the information on this stuff. It's all been scrubbed.
Yeah.
Unless you were there for it when it came out and took notes. It's so hard to find this stuff now.
And what's interesting about it is we're at a point now where it's challenging scientists to change how they see and think about stuff. And a lot of times we look at science or history as scientism, historism, etc., to where if it goes outside of the box of what we know, we're not going to touch it and we're going to push back on it. But it's great to see there are a lot of people in the theoretical and applied sciences that are actually grabbing onto this and wanted to take it to the next level. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome show tonight. Thank you for letting me add those thoughts in.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And on that note, Mike, you know what it's time for, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, let's start it off. Let's go ahead and thank our audience for their wonderful super chats today. We appreciate it so much. First of all, we just had a super chat come in from Ann Joanne for $10 US. We had another super chat. It was his 20th so far on Disclosure tonight. Tony D, thank you very much for your super chat. Peggy and her South Florida friends, that would be Crockett and Tubbs and Steve. A wonderful guy we all love. Thank you very much, my dear lady. Also want to thank Daryl. Let's go. Happy Saturday, everybody. Janet Park, thank you very much. You actually gave us 2 super chats here today for £2 each, and that's actually your 4th super chats you've given us so far. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything that everybody does for Disclosure tonight. More importantly, I want to go ahead and thank out the people in the chat, because it's the people in the chat who have been helping us. They're a part of the community. They're a part of the show. It's kind of like what we call as that 13th man on the football field that we have here in Seattle. You're here in my hearts, my friends. On that note, I want to go ahead and bring up a list of all the people that have been here today, participants who have we had out here so far. Got a nice list of people I'm going to thank for being here today, including Ann Joanne, AK, Alien Scientist, Amiga Rules has been here, along with Andy W. Let's thank Anton Ghost, Captain Kirk, AK just popped in, I caught you, my friend, along with Corgi Cast, Along Shadow. We've had Dana H, Daryl's been here, Evan B, Ian Tate, also Fink Ployd, Firefly, Geraldine has been here, along with Gray Jedi. Hemigod popped in. Good to see you, my friend. Jeremy Marlin, or Marin, I'm sorry. Frank Cathel, good to see you, Frank. I almost missed you on that one. Firefly's been here along with Gray Jedi. Hemigod, I already said your name a second time, sorry. Jeremy Marin, John Mooner, John Smith, and Johnny UFO. Kathy's been here along with Kelly Burrout and those piercing blue eyes. Good to see you, Kelly. Kevin Clark's been around along with King Bull, Lady Red. Liberty Astro UK has been in the chat through the entire show, along with Mario's Taco. Is that Mario's Taco, like Mario's Octopus? You never know, because taco is what they call octopus sushi. Let's thank Metal Gaming, Mick, Moon Pie. We miss you, Metal Gaming, in the back. Good to have you around in the chat. Moon Pie has been here along with Nancy Kuzmano, Niles Guy, Peggy and her South Florida friends. Also want to thank Pete Tremulous for coming out tonight. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. Also, Rainstorm Hunter, Ray Gee's been here along with Sam, Shelly Montgomery, and Sprightly Sprites Gemstone, Crystal Mineral Magic. Make sure you check out their live stream. It's a cool name. Tallywhacker's been around along with Tony D. UFO Disclosure 2025. Vern Dude. Hey, Vern. And Yankee 58. But it's not just about the people who have been in the chat or the people who have been through super chats our way. I also want to go ahead and thank our people in our back channel, in our back chat. Remember, we have viewer call in here. Next show, you have a question? You want to say something? Follow the link. We'd be happy to go ahead and accommodate you, my friends. Also in the back, I want to thank Alice W. Thanks for coming out today, Alice.
Thank you, Thomas. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, my dear lady. Andy W., thanks for coming out.
Yeah, cheers, Thomas. Have a great one. And thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, my sir. Also, Chromosome Cowboy, appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks, Thomas. Brilliant show. Really enjoyed it. Great to see Jeremy.
Thank you, sir. Also want to thank Daryl Zernick. Thanks for your commentary.
Thanks, Thomas. Always a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Ed Brown.
Well, I'm going to agree with everybody before me. It's been a great show, Thomas and Mike, and we will see everybody later.
See you later, my friend. Also want to thank Jeremy. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Mike. And I'm going to look into this right now, see what I can find. By the way, you know that Ross, I texted with Ross the other day. I don't know if I shared this with you guys, but he's basically, I was warning him. I'm saying, everyone's worried about disclosure ops. Is the Pentagon behind all these trolls? Or are they doing these troll farms? Are they paying these people? What the heck is going on with all this stuff? And he said he doesn't care if they run all the psyops they want. It doesn't really matter. He says, this is his last text message to me. I don't think you've yet understood the full implications of what Skywatcher proposes to do. They do not need the Defense Department. We don't need their videos or their secret data. Skywalker is extremely confident that it can replicate exactly what the Defense Department has been doing for decades: summon and bring down UAP craft.
Wow. Bringing it down just makes me feel like we're going to end up in a war that we're going to lose horribly. Just saying.
Oh, the military's already done it, though. I don't know. I guess it's like this is what he's saying.
Yeah.
This will be done very quickly. Skywatcher is a well-resourced entity with extraordinary private equity backing. In the end, Barber is not asking anyone to just believe him. It's almost pointless putting up interviews or video imagery because there will always be the squawkers and trolls who say it's all BS. He's saying he and his team will procure the evidence, the same evidence they've seen on the range that the Defense Department is trying to keep classified. He thinks I worry unnecessarily. It's not the least bit troubled by the squawking from the trolls and debunkers. The Defense Department can do whatever it likes. In the end, it will be proven to have lied and deceived, just as Elon Musk has done with the privatization of rocketry. Wow. Skywatcher intends to do with alien technology. Think about the implications of that, and best wishes, man.
Wow.
Mate, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's, it sounds to me improbable and almost unrealistic, but man, if this CA5 stuff works, the military has done this and they do it, then hey, I would love to look at that data and check that out.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Amazing.
And if there are a bunch of people at those events and they all bring out their phones and they all record the stuff and it's happening live and they've got it, you know what? It goes more than just having one camera checking it. Now you've got a bunch of people who are all there and they all witnessed it.
Yeah, that would be something amazing if that were to, maybe that's how disclosure happens. I just don't know. I've kind of like become jaded with all the hope and then the letdowns and stuff. So, but I don't know. I still, I hope it happens, man. That would be amazing for this year. But again, that's where he's at with all this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear you about the hopes and then the letdowns time and time again. It makes us all a little bit more jaded towards the situation and what they tell us, doesn't it?
Indeed. Maybe that's part of the plan, is demoralization of the whole movement.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. I know that's Susan Go's plan and Kirkpatrick's plan, right? So
well, let's hope she gets new career opportunities presented to her.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Then let's go ahead and thank Leonard Seymour. Thanks for coming out today. Your question?
Good evening, sir. Time will be the truth teller. Are we correct? Time is going to do that. History is not going to look favorably upon these debunkers. I try to tell them that on the X tweets, and I'm just convinced that they are all paid disinformation agents.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming out. Thank you for your last comments. Michael Sokoloff, thank you for coming to us from Canada today.
Anytime, Thomas, anytime.
And let's take it back to Tia Marie. I appreciate your questions today and comments. Right.
Well, thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome, my dear
Always a
lady.
pleasure.
Thank you very much. And that takes us back to Mike Disclosure. Thanks for staying with us in overtime.
Oh, that goes without saying. Are you kidding me? From beginning right to the end. You know that, my friend.
Oh, of course, my friend.
It was fun. Great show.
You got to have fun with it. That's why Moose is here. He's saying, "Where in the hell is where's my meal for the day?" Got him a cookie to get it there. And on that note, as we usually say, Mike, at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everyone. But
go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. We'll catch you in the flip side. Good night, everybody. Y'all come back now. Here. Take care now. Bye-bye.